After decades of discussion and nearly 10 years of planning, efforts to replace the Bourne and Sagamore Bridges may soon receive substantial financial support from the federal government. On March 9th, the Biden administration released its budget request for fiscal year 2024, which includes a $350 million allocation for the Cape Cod Bridges Program managed by the Massachusetts Department of Transportation. Pending congressional approval, the federal budget will provide significant funding to the Bridges Program, bringing the large-scale project closer to its construction phase. Cape Cod Commission Deputy Director Stephen Tupper explains more.
So certainly the replacement of the Bourne and Sagamore Bridges and all of the associated infrastructure is a really significant project, currently estimated at approximately $4 billion. So it's going to take a whole host of funding sources to get that done. The state has committed $350 million to the project. Additionally, Federal Highway is awarded $1.6 million of a planning grant to the Army Corps of Engineers. And then most recently, within President Biden's budget proposal, there's $350 million towards a commitment of $600 million indicated for the Army Corps of Engineers. Now that's a budget proposal from the president. It still has to go through congressional budget making. So we're required acts of the U.S. Congress for that money to be realized. But at least in my opinion, it's an indication of federal support for the project.
According to Massachusetts Congressman Bill Keating, the program's latest application for federal funding was likely successful because of a recent state-level financial commitment.
Governor Healy, in her discussions down here in D.C., has committed to additional monies in the same ballpark of the $600 million, somewhere in that vicinity, from the Commonwealth. So this is significant. The reason the other two applications weren't successful, in large part, was because there was no matching funds in place by the Commonwealth or the Army Corps of Engineers. Now that pool of funds are there.
Governor Healy credits Congressman Keating as well as Senators Elizabeth Warren and Ed Markey for their leadership and partnership in pursuing federal financial support for the Cape Cod Bridges Program. Moving forward, the construction timeline and eventual completion date of the program depends on the timeliness of funding.
Funding is going to be the limiting factor here until those larger portions of the funding are secured. There's only so far the program can go. That being said, during the public meetings, they have indicated if all things go kind of according to plan, we're still a couple years out from releasing funds for potential bridge construction, and we'll be talking about potentially 5 to 7 years of construction activities. So even best case scenario, to me, it would look like we're about 10 years out, and that seems like a long time, but we're also talking about a $4 billion project with significant regional impact, so we want to make sure it's done in a very deliberative way, in a way that's in the best interest of the region.
In addition to replacing the Bourne and Sagamore Bridges, the Cape Cod Bridges Program also promises various other travel improvements throughout the Cape Cod Canal area.
So the replacement of the Bourne and Sagamore Bridges is certainly kind of the front page news, if you will, in terms of the project, but that's only one element. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to re-envision the transportation system there, and there's certainly the technical need when you replace the bridges to adjust all the connecting roadways. That would be the interchanges on both sides, Bourne Rotary, Belmont Circle, all the connections. But it would also involve looking at accommodations for bicyclists, pedestrians, public transit users, and also local intersections in the broader canal area.
The Bourne and Sagamore Bridges both opened in 1935, and after about 88 years of service, officials recognized the need to replace each structure rather than carry on with increasingly frequent maintenance activities.
Just to keep repairing them is more wasteful in terms of money, and it would limit the access at a certain time. For instance, the type of repairs in the years to come would have resulted in an entire bridge being closed because of the footings. That's by the engineering reports of the Army Corps of Engineers themselves.
The region needs safe and reliable crossings of the Cape Cod Canal. We are functionally an island with the Cape Cod Canal, and really every aspect of our society and the people rely on those connections. So a threat to either one of those bridges, whether it be something catastrophic or whether it be simply a major reconstruction, which would have to happen if we don't replace the bridges and would involve multiple months of bridge closures, that's the path we head down if we don't replace the bridges.
We have to keep the lifelines open for the over 250,000 people that would live here year round. You know, the Commonwealth's stake in this too is pretty clear, because there's over $1 billion of tax revenues that come from Cape Cod and the islands during the summertime. So anything that diminishes the traffic back and forth during those periods will result in a very enormous loss of revenue to the Commonwealth.
We need to replace our bridges till we have those safe and reliable connections going forward. And this is the opportune time to do it, given that there's a good amount of federal funding available for this sort of infrastructure work. So fortunately, it's a convergence of needs and opportunity in terms of funding. So this is the time to do it.